What's going on? VitalSyntax here, and finally some more Battlefield 3 gameplay from the Aftermath expansion. I haven't played this game too much lately, and I haven't obviously made any videos on it lately either, mostly just because I've been playing DayZ, which is awesome in itself, and I'll continue to do as many DayZ videos as I can. Definitely more once the standalone comes out, but I wanted to start doing more Battlefield 3 videos just because I haven't been doing too many on my channel, and I know a lot of my subscribers are here for Battlefield 3 content. So anyway, actually recently I was able to install Battlefield Bad Company 2 again. It's been sitting in my Steam library, I just haven't had it downloaded ever since I reformatted it a couple months ago. And it was a really nice opportunity to kind of get a good comparison between Battlefield 3 and Bad Company 2, because I was able to play Battlefield Bad Company 2 and then directly after that switch over to Battlefield 3. And one of the things I noticed is how awesome the kit balance is in Battlefield Bad Company 2. And this is some of the things that I've pointed out in my Battlefield 4 wishlist type of video, is that I really don't like the kit balance in Battlefield 3. And I think that the support class and the recon class are very underpowered. And looking over at Battlefield Bad Company 2, it was so nice to see how many different kits people were running, how the ratios that kits that I saw people killing me with, and also the ratio of the kits that I was using myself was so much better balanced. I was using, everything. I was using all four classes just as evenly. And the biggest thing really that makes that balance more awesome in Battlefield Bad Company 2 is the difference between the assault kit and the medic kit, because hopefully you guys remember this, but in Battlefield Bad Company 2 the medic was the guy with the LMGs and the defibrillators and the health packs, and then the assault guy was the guy with the ammo and the assault rifles, whereas in Battlefield 3 they switched the med kit and the ammo over to the assault rifles and gave the light machine guns the ammo, which at the time when I first heard it, when Battlefield 3 was kind of being announced and they were talking about new information about it, I was kind of excited, and I thought it was going to be a cool way to balance the game, and I didn't really think it was going to be anything, any type of issue. But I really think that's one of my biggest gripes with Battlefield 3, and I know it might sound kind of silly, but that's one of the things I noticed right off the bat with Battlefield Bad Company 2 that was really awesome. Now, there's plenty of things that weren't awesome about Battlefield Bad Company 2 that have been improved in Battlefield 3. One of the biggest ones was the fact that you can't strafe while you're running, which is really weird. It felt super clunky. I mean, if you're holding the sprint key, you can only go forward, and you can move your mouse around, but you can't use strafe left or strafe right to kind of control your movement a little bit easier, which is really weird and awkward. And I don't know, I think the controls altogether in that game are a little bit more clunky. Things like jumping and running, and there's no prone, which is another huge thing. But so I mean, overall, I've always, for example, with the Call of Duty series, it seems like every time a new Call of Duty comes out, the previous Call of Duty gets praised for being so awesome, just because it's the previous one, and the new one has issues that aren't dealt with. And in some ways, I feel a little bit of the same, like with Battlefield Bad Company 2 versus Battlefield 3, but really, for the most part, Battlefield 3 is a huge improvement in every aspect, other than some of the kit balancing and also some of the weapon balancing. It seems like there's a better weapon variety in Battlefield Bad Company 2. Not necessarily more weapons to play around with, but there's more good weapons to play around with. I mean, when I was playing as the assault kit, the M16A3 is a really good choice, the M416, the XM8, the AUG, they all kind of stand out as awesome weapons, and there was never really one that everybody used, at least in my experience. I didn't play Bad Company 2 a whole lot on the PC. I mostly played it on the PS3, and I know it's a different crowd of players, so I could be wrong. There may have been some really overpowered weapons, but in Battlefield 3 it was the M16 and then the M416, basically all you saw for a good amount of time. Or whenever I was playing as a medic class in Bad Company 2, there's so many awesome options as well. The MG36, the XM8 LMG, the MG3, the M60, the PKM, they're all like really good guns, and they're really fun to use. They're really unique. And another huge thing was the lack of suppression. Now, before I had gone back and played Battlefield Bad Company 2, just a couple weeks ago, before I didn't have it installed on my computer, I for some reason had the idea that Bad Company 2 had no suppression and no flinch mechanic at all, and that's not the case. Now that I went back and played it, I did notice there's no suppression mechanic. In Battlefield 3, the suppression mechanic is your recoil and spread gets increased and your vision gets blurred. In Bad Company 2, they have more of a flinch mechanic, which is similar to what you see in Call of Duty, where whenever you get hit, it has nothing to do with, you know, getting shot at and the target or the enemy missing its target. But if you actually get hit, you actually get like a little bit of a blurry screen, but it's more of like blood on your screen. But more importantly, you actually do have a little bit of a flinch, which was weird because for some reason I didn't remember that being there. Probably because it's not that big of a deal. It's a very small amount of flinch, and it really doesn't knock you off target very long or very much. It's pretty easy to recover from. So that was another huge thing that I really liked about Battlefield Bad Company 2. It's just the fact that suppression was gone. You know, it wasn't increasing your spread so you can't hit anybody. It was maybe just making you go off target a little bit more, so you have to kind of pay attention and, you know, readjust your aim, which I'm actually kind of fine with. I would prefer it be on, but it's a lot better in my opinion than suppression is in Battlefield 3. One thing I did really notice is that there's a lot less emphasis on vehicles, and for me personally, I'm not really a huge vehicle person, and I'm not really going to get into why in this video, because I think it's a pretty controversial topic and a lot of people will get frustrated at my opinion. But in Battlefield Bad Company 2, it seemed like there was a lot less vehicle warfare, a lot more infantry focused warfare, and I think that was one of the reasons, one of the things that Bad Company 2, the series, kind of had going for it, because it was on consoles. You know, they were trying to make it more of a competitor to Call of Duty at the time. You know, they weren't, you know, doing the huge scale warfare that Battlefield 2 had done, and obviously with Battlefield 3 they tried to do a lot of that as well. Actually, you know, I'm going to touch on why I don't like, not necessarily don't like, but don't necessarily prefer the method of vehicle deployment in Battlefield 3. So just keep in mind that this is just my opinion, and that you know, I could be convinced either way, but basically I want to say that, okay, so in Battlefield 3, anybody can get a vehicle. You don't have to do anything. As long as you spawn in first, you can get, you know, a helicopter, a jet, a tank, anything like that. And I think everybody would agree that having a tank and playing as, you know, an engineer, or having somebody else playing as engineer so you can get repaired, versus it's going to give you a huge advantage on the battlefield versus some infantry player. I mean, if you're an infantry player, if you're really lucky, you might get C4 on, but if you're in a vehicle, you usually always have an edge up, an advantage over somebody that's on the ground, even if they have C4 or they have rockets or something like that. So I don't really like the fact that anybody can get into a vehicle. Now, in some ways I do, because I like the fact that it, you know, allows everybody to try stuff out and everybody to enjoy the game, but at the same time, it's really frustrating when just some random person who isn't helping the team at all is just spamming the spawn button to try and get a helicopter. Or he's just sitting at the base not helping your team at all because he wants to get in the helicopter, or because he wants to get in a heavy tank, or any type of vehicle. Whereas everybody else is really fighting and really, you know, capturing flags and getting kills, and they're helping their team, yet they don't get the reward of trying to, you know, driving around these vehicles and having this advantage on the battlefield. Now, I'm not necessarily saying that it should be exactly like Call of Duty, but I wish there was a kill streak system. I wish there was a way that the only way you could get vehicles is by doing well, is by actually helping your team, because I don't like the idea that you can just sit in your spawn point and spam the spawn point button. Whoever has the lowest latency and clicks spawn first gets a vehicle. That's really frustrating to me, especially when, you know, somebody that's not helping your team at all gets those vehicles and you don't, even though you're, you know, doing a bunch of work for your team. So maybe not, I don't know, kill based or even score based, but having some way of, the way you get vehicles is by doing stuff, not by just hitting the spawn button. I mean, another game that kind of had a good way of going about this was this Homefront. Now, I barely played Homefront, literally for like less than 30 minutes. And that game was pretty crappy in a lot of ways. But one of the really cool things is I think it had like battle points where you would get points by doing basically everything, by getting revives, by giving people ammo, by capturing flags, by doing revives. Anything in Battlefield, for example, you would get points for. And you could use those points to buy vehicles. And that was a really cool system because it allowed people to choose what they want. And it also didn't require like a kill system. So the biggest difference between the Homefront system and Call of Duty system is in Call of Duty you have to get kills, or I guess now in Black Ops 2 you just have to get points, which killing is usually the best way to get points. And once you get to a certain amount of points, as long as you don't die, you can get a kill streak. Whereas in Homefront, it doesn't matter if you die, you're still collecting points for your team. You can use those points even if you've died 100 times. and you never even got a kill streak, as long as you got 10 kills, you can use those points you got from 10 kills to buy a tank or buy some type of other vehicle. And I would personally like to see some implementation of that in Battlefield 4. Like I said earlier, this is something that I think most people are going to disagree with me on, just because the Battlefield franchise and the fans that play it are really hardcore. They are obsessed with the game, which is awesome, and they don't want to see a lot change. They kind of want to stay to the fundamentals, system that the original Battlefield games had, and Battlefield 2 had, and now that Battlefield 3 had. But that's just something for me personally I wish was changed in Battlefield 4 or in a future Battlefield. But anyway, feel free to give me your opinions on that system in the comments down below. Thanks for watching the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Hopefully more Battlefield 3. Thanks for watching.